Some people from the mining communities in the Sekhukhune District in Limpopo are calling on the government to ensure that the mines benefit locals. They say the mining companies get away with billions of rand while the communities are living in poverty. This comes as the mining conference gets underway in Polokwane today. The conference is expected to discuss investment opportunities in the mining industry. The Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy is on the podium. Let's take you there live.
That oil, we develop it, but every time we touch oil and gas, we get taken to court because environmentalists believe that we must just leave ourselves being clean and not develop. And the Constitution says we must develop, but develop responsibly. It doesn't say we must stop development. It says we must develop, but develop responsibly. It means that we take care of the environment, but we develop. Now, and this decision was informed by the Council of Geoscience, Council for Geoscience. When it did its geological mapping, it identified this province as the prospective corridor and a new mining belt. And we have a duty and an obligation to develop this mining belt. When I'm a minister, beyond me being a minister, it must be a decision of South Africans that there is this mining belt that must be developed. The only thing that I want to put claim on is that I actively promoted this belt. Somebody must take over and continue with developing this belt. So we must not develop things for today. We must develop things into the future. And our people must benefit from that development into the future. In 2021, we convened this inaugural mining and energy conference at the height of COVID-19, working together with our social partners to ensure that mining and energy sectors continue to operate despite criticism. At the inaugural conference, we deliberated on several issues geared towards promoting investment in the mining and energy sector in this province. You'll notice that though we say mining, we call it mining and energy sector. Mining and energy sector, which means if these provinces are going to be the corridor, they must be at the center of the debate about the future of energy security. I'm not going to spend time on that today. It's a subject on its own. We'll spend time in the oil week in Cape Town next week. We'll talk about that because we have a responsibility as a developing community to determine the role of coal, the role of fossil fuels in our development. How do we reduce high carbon emission to low carbon emissions? That is our responsibility, but we have also equally a responsibility to appreciate that we should never be reckless about that and just think that we can switch off coal and go to renewables and it is the end of the story. It doesn't work that way. European Union has experienced that in practical terms. That's why today they buy coal from us. I will come back to that. In 2021 arrests, that was in KZN and spread to Gauteng, we discovered how skewed our economic landscape is. At least 50% of our country's GDP is in Gauteng and KZN. And if you add the Western Cape to it, that goes to 65. It means that we have 6 provinces that are scrambling for the 35%. They're not equally developed. And therefore, in our thing is that we have a duty to change that landscape. Now, I'm making this allegation, Comrade Stan, because we have not changed the apartheid architecture of the economy. And our duty is to tamper with it. You cannot have Limpopo, Northwest, and Northern Cape, for example, that's the 3. Actually mining, but remain poor. Unless we focus on development that goes with mining. Therefore, we must change that landscape, and these provinces must reach full potential. And when we have a time, we'll explain to you what is the potential in the Free State and the Eastern Cape. You know, Shell was chased out of the Eastern Cape, ran for cover, ran to Namibia, discovered oil there, but in the Eastern Cape we can't touch oil potential and gas potential. South of the Eastern Cape, in the Andenikwa region, Total discovered 3.7 TCF of gas. And we can't extend that potential up to the Eastern Cape and KZN. ENI was chased out of KZN, ran to Cote d'Ivoire, discovered huge deposits of oil in Cote d'Ivoire. And as a rebel, that is what I've earned, I said, it's okay, we'll breathe fresh air in poverty. It's okay. Let's breathe fresh air in poverty. That's the choice we're making, because life is about choices we make. And if we make correct choices, we succeed. If we make wrong choices, we don't succeed. That's it. So when we talk about investment in mining, I can tell you, mining companies will tell you here, every time they open mining, they go through a long process of environmental evaluation and certification and all that. Because the attitude of me as a South African is that mining is dirty, is difficult, is dangerous, is diseased. Basically saying we must not touch the wealth we're having. And the beauty of that wealth is that it doesn't migrate. It remains here. If we don't touch it, we remain poor, but that mineral will sit where it is. It is not going to migrate to somewhere else. Somebody in the future will use the wisdom to exploit those minerals. We have an opportunity to develop wealth in our country. Minerals are here. Even the green economy is dependent on mining. You know, I'm going to talk about the innovation of Anglo platinum in this province a little bit. That is not the main, but we must talk about it, because sometimes we say we had a conference, we forgot. Some of us, we don't forget, we pursue things we discussed here and follow them through to the end. We made remarkable observations that can help drive investment in the because this year conference provides us with an opportunity to focus on the investment opportunities and promote projects in the province. We must collectively build on the successes of the inaugural conference. Every success, we must consolidate and move on. Every success, how small it may be, we must consolidate and move on. My grandfather taught me something very basic. We go to school, we're from a red family. I don't know if you know a red family. Families that didn't go to school. You see, that they thought that stick fighting need to be certificated so that they may have BAs in stick fighting. And we never had BAs in stick fighting. But they taught us one thing that is important is that when we went to school, if you pass sub B, that old man used to slaughter a sheep. I'm slaughtering this sheep for those who have passed. If you like, you can give pieces to those who have failed. And the lesson I learned from that is that every small achievement you make, you celebrate, you acknowledge, because it is important. Now, overall strategic role of mining in the economy, how does it boost economic activities, accelerate manufacturing, increasing levels of employment? With the highest levels of unemployment in the country, mining must contribute in reducing it. There was consensus that this can only be possible if we take the structural impediments on the economy, which reduce black majority to labor seekers. I'm a mine worker by background. I spent all my life in mining. I know that I came to mining with matric, but I couldn't touch a blasting certificate because I was not a scheduled person. That was the legal term for a white person. If you are not a scheduled person, you can't touch blasting certificate. And the fear was that would access those explosives, hand them over to any terrorists. Now, to prevent that, we're told that you can't touch just mining, which is basic qualification, because you're not a scheduled person. Now, the MPRDA enables all of us to develop mining sector that promotes economic growth and development, social equity, and environmental sustainability. It allows for economic redistribution through new entry of black miners in all levels. In March this year, we published for implementation of the policy on artisanal and small-scale miners. Very important, we'll need established companies to stretch their hand, reach out for those artisanal miners, allow them to participate what they know most. You know why we took this thing? We thought that we must aim at formalizing artisanal small-scale mining and enable economic activity primarily for citizens. One time, I go throughout the country, sometimes to the worst places. I ended up in Namakwaland one time. And those diamond miners, they told me, listen, Mr. Mantashe, we are speakers, we are divers. You are relegating us into being thugs because we must go and steal diamonds, which is what we know. And that convinces us that we have a duty to develop artisanal miners and small-scale miners. We have trained 630 up to now. We have 200 women under training now. Others are from this province. But what we should do, now that is the next step, we should formalize them, attach them to big mines, because big mines have this tendency of getting to rich ore bodies and reach small ore bodies and sterilize them. Artisanal and small-scale miners will actually give value to that sterilized mineral. And it's quite an important project for us. We are not experienced in it. We must learn together. We must help one another. If need be, send people to the rest of the continent to go and learn. That's what we should do. Now, we raised the issue of mines that are under care and maintenance. We raised that issue. We were quite excited to announce that today, I have not seen Unatasha Felioni, the CEO of Anglo Platinum. I have not seen her. Where is she? Yeah. We've been engaging. She's ready to talk to us all the time. One thing she has done, she has concluded the deal for Bukoni. Bukoni is now handed over to a new owner. It can operate, it must produce platinum and employ people. It must impact on the communities there. I think we should congratulate her for that. That's quite an important decision to take. We are now engaging with her on actually doing the same for Twickenham. Twickenham is care maintenance. It can't be. It must produce platinum, it must employ people, it must develop communities. We are in the middle of that. We are not fighting about it, we are engaging about it. The only argument that we are having is that he gave Bukone to an established black company. And we raised an issue there, as the department said, it's okay, good Bukone, give it. But we are insisting that if we are giving rights to any people in the process, we must develop new black capitalists. Now, many people ask me, what kind of a communist is this who promote capitalists? And I said, it's a communist who have read the theory of communism, that it grows in the womb of the previous well, let me leave this. But the reality of the matter is that it is important for us, as we develop, we must continue developing black capitalists. My duty, our duty at a political level, is to help our black capitalists to appreciate the fact that this thing of when they see money, they sell their assets is not helpful. It's not helpful because they are putting us few steps backwards. You know, Ndareto Sekhukhune ran a very important product here. Sold it, it disappeared. That brand disappeared. This last year, Royal Bafokeng, built a brand from scratch and built a decent mining company, full shaft operational, rich ore body, sold it. That brand is going to disappear. It's not helpful. It is not helpful. That's my view, and I express them with everybody I met who are involved. It's okay, you can sell your brand, you take shares, but you will have the shares, but the brand will disappear. And when that brand disappears, it means the impact of allowing black South African access to economic activity is watered down. Because one of the characteristics of apartheid was to deprive black people access to economic activity. Now, when we have that space and we see money, we sell, we destroy that effort. That's my appeal. And then the implementation of this act, in particular the social and labor plan, has potential to enhance social and economic welfare. I am begging all of us to monitor social and labor plans. It's very important. Where it is done well, we hand over schools to the department. We hand over clinics to the Department of Health. We do all that. As we did in the Malikane Steel Bridge project, we hand over bridges. And communities, provincial governments, local governments must help us monitor the implementation of the social labor plan, because it changes the reputation of the mining industry as thus having a reputation of leaving holes behind. It must change the lives of people in where they are mining. We continue to, as mining companies, we must prioritize meaningful consultation with communities. We must talk to communities. But at the same time, we must also help communities not to fight over the potential access to wealth. You know, one of the biggest problems is when people get in there, they get tempted to get money quick. That responsibility is with us. Communities must participate, appreciate that the best way of helping communities to build impactful projects that benefit communities, not dish money to individuals that give them money quick. Part of the strategic orientation of the mining of South Africa is bring us a mineral reserve that the country is endowed with. Soon after the inaugural conference, we introduced the country's exploration strategy. Mr. Mabuza here is short, you will struggle to see him. Very short. He is leading the Council for Geoscience. Talk to him. If you have chance, it can be tea time, it can be lunch, talk to him. You will get something from him. Very actual, passionate about exploration. And exploration is important because it's about discovering where the deposits are, the quality and the quantity of those deposits. That is where mining begins. And I always tell people who say mining, mining has a clear value chain. Start with geology, where you discover rocks and you determine the behavior of rocks, and you bring mining engineers to develop mines, but you need metallurgists to separate the mineral from the rock. Only beyond that point can you talk of beneficiation. That value chain is very, very important to all of us. To all of us. So I just pointed you to Mr. Mabuza. You have to look for him. He's very short, very, very short. But when you see him and talk to him, you'll know that he is tall indeed in ideas. Now, the question is, how far are we with all the projects that we've talked about? What are the impediments, if any? The conference also discussed the role of our municipalities and play part in increasing investment in their localities. We must ensure good governance in municipalities for them to attract investment. We resolved last year on economic diversification and drive of local development. You know, one of the things that hurts me as a leader of the ANC is that last year we improved on the number of clean audits to 41. But what hurt me is that of the 41, 22 are in the DA-governed Western Cape, 22. We are only responsible for 19. We share it among our provinces. And two of our provinces, the Northwest and Free State, have not a single clean audit. That's the area we must look at, because clean governance is important for us to attract investment. Now, we've introduced the district development model. I'm a district development champion for Bujanal. One of the most important things is that we want to pull resources together to facilitate development, work with the private sector in that process. But the province has a responsibility to monitor if these DDMs are effective. If they're not effective, the province must raise the red flag immediately, because sometimes you get given this responsibility and become too lazy. And I always describe laziness as a disease, very difficult to cure. The conference also spoke about the need to address energy poverty and ensure security of energy supply in society. Let me make this point. We are in the middle of load shedding. Load shedding. It visits every day, and we get every day. You walk out, people say, yeah, ANC is useless, load shedding, ANC is useless. And every time you have to apologize, but I'm very sorry for load shedding. And myself a detailed analysis of load shedding. One of us said, I couldn't worry about load shedding and apartheid. He talks to me. Now, I was there, you know, and I said to him, yes, you wouldn't worry about load shedding because you didn't have access to electricity. That's the first thing. So there could be no load shedding when there was no electricity. So the first thing was to give access to electricity. We've improved access from 39% to 87% of the population. We're left with 13% to have universal access to electricity. That is the starting point. And therefore the load is heavier for an entity that we left. But the worst thing is that instead of talking about renewables and this, and we must be honest to society that renewables are not the immediate solution to load shedding. When you give a license for renewables, it takes 12, 18 months, even 24 months to build the facility to generate energy. So it's not an immediate, say you issue a license today, there will be no load shedding on Saturday. That is a myth. We're misleading society. We must invest in renewables because we're dealing with the future of energy supply, security of energy supply in the country. But what we need to pay our attention to today is that ESCOM has 48,000 megawatts connected. At best, it gives us 26,000 megawatts. So there's an idle 20,000 megawatts that are not decommissioned, that are idle, that are not giving us any energy. And we must focus on that in the meantime to resolve the issue of load shedding. And that is an issue of leadership. That is an issue of skills in ESCOM. We met the generation team invited by my colleague there, went to join, and discovered that almost every post station manager there is not more than 2 years being a post station manager. Young, inexperienced, running a post station, you lose units. And that's why there was this appeal to invite old engineers to come and help in ESCOM. And we must focus on that, we must help one another with that and ensure that ESCOM give us this energy. Into the future, the IRP is propagating mixed energy technologies. It is not the IRP that talks about coal to renewables. It says we are going to have coal for a long time, okay? And actually the disaster in Europe after Russia-Ukraine war has proven that actually the life of coal is going to be longer than we expected. Our sale of coal to Europe has grown 8-fold. It has increased by 720%, and we're selling that coal to them, but they say to us, get out of it immediately. Now, I had to take few of my colleagues to the coal belt. They say, this is the coal belt. I worked there for years, okay? I know it well. So this is the coal belt. Just sit there, imagine just switching off coal. You have 10 towns in that coal belt, okay, that you will switch off immediately. I don't talk Standard Oil, I don't talk Vereniging, I don't talk Limpopo. I'm just talking about the Witbank coal belt. Belfast, MLO, Henrina, Middleburg, Caroline, Witbank, Ochis, Leandra, Kriel, and Telmas. That is a continuous coal mining belt. It is the host of a number of coal power stations. Switch it off, you kill that area totally immediately and kill South African energy supply immediately. So we must be careful when we talk about it. Look at a proper energy mix. I'm a great proponent of gas. I'm a great proponent of nuclear. I know that coal is going to be with us a long time. The battery storage is also an option, but it is slow, it is expensive at this point in time. We'll have to invest in the technology into the future. The work is underway to remove licensing threshold on embedded generation. We increased it last year from 1, we went to 10, and there was a protest. They said 50, I said, no, don't make it 50, make it 100. It became 100. Now this year they came and protested and said, make it 1,000. I said, no, don't make it 1,000, remove the cap. Don't remove the cap, and that is what we have gazetted that those who want to invest in embedded generation, you can invest on anything. If you want to build a power station, you can build a power station. There is no cap. You don't need a license. You just need to register it with NERSA, and that's it. But in return, okay, before I give you the bad news, clap. But in return, don't expect state guarantee for uptake of your product. You will sell your product in the open market, and people will buy from you, and that's it. Now, this province, therefore, has a potential on energy, President, various ones. I was disappointed, by the way, when I was told that the Musena Special Economic Zone has neglected the coal power station concept there. And I said they should have had a meeting with me, because I would have encouraged them to continue having that power station there, because it is going to save them. What do you replace it with? You can't replace that coal power station for that economic zone with renewables, because renewables are good, but they have time zones, they have timelines, and number two, They have no base load, and therefore you need to complement them with a base load technology to be sustainable. Thank you very much for being here. I hope that we'll see more investment. That's why I had to go to them in detail, President, so that you must see that we are hard at work. Things are changing. Next year, I'm sure we'll be reporting on Twigana. If we agree with Natasha, we'll come back next year and say Twigana is operational, it's fully, it has produced new black capitalists. That's it. So every step we get, we must celebrate. Thank you very much. I hope the discussion here will not be polarized. We'll discuss constructively and engage, and we'll get interested investors. The Limpopo Development Corporation must talk to investors, take them out for tea, take them out for coffee, take them out to dinner, and convince them that it is the place to be in here. So if we do that, there are many investors here who want to invest. And one of the things, I'm sitting down now, I normally receive people who come to my office and say, here we are, we have a solution, we'll employ people. I say to them, no, sit down. Nobody goes into business to employ people. Otherwise, you must run the EPWP if that's what you're doing. If you're in business, you want to go into business because it has potential to make money. You want to make profit. In the process, you will employ people. So I'm warning you, don't come and tell me that you want to invest here because you want to employ people. You want to make money. And there's nothing wrong in making money. But in the process of making money, you will employ people. Then, if that is the approach, we agree. Thank you very much.
Well, there you have it, the Energy and Mineral Minister Gwede Mantashe speaking at the Limpopo Mining, Energy and Industrialization Investment Conference. He's co-hosting with Premier Stanley Chupu Matabata.